How important is it for brands to represent your identity?
Very.
Quite.
Vital.
My name is Jacquees Hargrove, and I identify as a Black American woman.
I'm Nachigoto. I identify as Asian.
My name is Cesar Lopez, technically Hispanic Latino, on the census technically white.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I identify as African American.
Melissa Alamo is my name. The best way I describe myself is Afro-Latinx, sometimes Afro-Cuban.
Hey, my name is Jalen Hudson, and I identify as an African American.
The increase in racial diversity in their brands is important, something that's very noticeable when you look at today's media and today's advertisement versus 40, 50 years ago.
But it's like the norm. They have to like employ DEI into their ads or they're gonna be canceled.
I think like overall it's a good thing. I think it's more reflective of society.
We are the ones that are consuming their products, so it's very important that they're representing the stories that represent our experience. There's so many different kinds of people in our country, and who directly are you talking to? Because if you're talking to me, then you're going to use certain verbiage, or you're going to use certain people, certain storylines to communicate with people that look like me or people that have my experience or similar experiences as myself.
I really feel like I need to see someone like me in order to actually be engaged to buy any type of product or service that's being marketed out there.
It helps for people to see just like normal people representing those products because I think it's easier for them to be like, oh, like I could be just like them.
The Dove commercials, the Real Beauty commercials, I adore the Real Beauty commercials because I think there's a standard of beauty, especially when it comes to women, with body sizes and skin tones that we subscribe to. They have blog posts that educate you, and I feel like that's beautiful. That's really going the extra mile to show that your brand is inclusive, show that your brand actually cares about diverse voices and diverse people, that you don't have to be a size 2 or you don't have to be fair-skinned to be considered beautiful, which is, it's great.
You know, when I think of old advertisements of soaps and body wash, like first of all, you might not even really see them use the product, but there was a certain skin type and skin tone that you saw with the products. Like you did not see someone that had the same complexion as me, like using the product. So now to see like that product showcase all types of women, all types of people, I think that's really cool because we all use soap.
So when you see that their commercials are only targeted to like one specific type of person, it's like, oh, well, is this brand not really for me? Are they not really looking for my customer base here?
Part of being a human being to feel welcome, to feel accepted, to feel seen. So I think that's something we all want. I just don't think it always plays out that way. I do think it's one of those things where they probably cross off multiple things at once.
The Target ad kind of touches that a little bit, but I think it transcends it slightly because it talks about being open. So it definitely gives that kumbaya vibe.
It was very much racial and ethnic diversity where, you know, one world that celebrates should get like very in your face.
Like, let's see how many checkboxes we can cross off and represent.
But not in the way that is ignoring the differences, more in a way that's embracing them.
It was still creative to some extent.
But it just didn't feel like a real life situation. Like in what world would you actually have a whole group of diverse people painting a Target sign on a rooftop? But I understood the visual aspects of like everyone painting, everyone's paint splatters being incorporated, interconnected with each other, because they were kind of talking about that through the audio.
They're saying let's all be open to each other's differences and let's celebrate them. Let's bring those different colors, those different experiences out and share them together. And then they're embracing that in their brand.
But in the Nike ad, like it was athletes of diverse backgrounds, in particular, like a lot of racial and ethnic minorities. in real world settings. So that felt a bit more natural, a lot less like forced.
They were including diversity, not just in racial and ethnic background, but also different like athletes and their own relationships with their own sports. So I thought that was a little bit creative of still getting to some of those same things, but I think they centered it around
everyday people, you know, your local athletes, your kids, your able, disabled.
Everyone is in a natural environment where they already are finding themselves in as athletes, whether that's at an amateur level, personal hobby, or at a professional level. Like that's where they're at, that's where their presence is known.
But now it's like diversity of human experience.
Nike's capturing that, not creating it.
So when they do that and they actually take the time to use diverse faces and voices, it's impactful. You feel seen, you feel heard, you feel validated and represented on screen, in the media.
It encompasses a lot of different people and a lot of voices where you can feel included. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of felt inspired to buy some Nike gear myself. So I'm actually do appreciate how Nike is amplifying a lot of different people in their commercials.
I don't expect every brand to hit all of the marks because I identify with a lot of different groups and I have different needs, and brands represent those different needs. It's good to know that where you spend your money, where you support a brand, that something is there for you to identify with and for you to connect with. I think it's all about authenticity. When I connect with something, again, whether it is through racial identity or hobby, an experience, whatever it is, like I connect because I can feel or I'm communicating with in a way where it's like, no, like that's my experience too. So that's such a relatable experience that I want to take on that product or I want to pursue that. Like I have that connection when there's a face, and that might initially make me think there's some authenticity and some relatability there, but baiting on the fact that the face is enough, and it's just not enough.
It's really hard to tell because I think, especially in the US, it's like the norm now, like having diversity, especially in their advertisements, because like if they don't, they're in trouble oftentimes.
You know, they're increasing visibility, but then I think it's, for me personally, it's the reason of why you're doing it that helps me connect or believe in what you're saying.
It's great to see the visual representation of people physically, right? But their presence in commercials doesn't always add a lot, other than you are bringing people in, so at a glance, it looks more diverse.
And you have some brands are just practicing tokenism. Basically a concept where people will just point out like the figments or aspects of a person's identity. Like for example, I'm the first Black Scott Council president here at the College of Worcester. And you have people, no matter what, at the College of Worcester will just identify that as a diversity token. He's Black, he's a leader, he's the first Black president. Of course, we expect so much out of him.
So it almost seems a little targeted, but it also does make people stop and recognize your brand. And that's a very smart brand strategy, but it does come across as, artificial. So targeting is taking the stereotypical stories of a community and putting that into your media. It's that unhealthy sodas and fast food chains that are always targeted towards minority communities that don't have the options for healthier foods. It's very much for sales. You can tell it's for the money, and it's very targeted, especially because everything is very data-driven. So you can see like how that data is collected, and these narratives are put together based on like numbers instead of like actual human stories and human backgrounds.
The advertising blitz isn't the only problem facing low-income communities of color. There's also a lack of quality food options. These areas are called food deserts, a place where there are no good grocery stores or healthy restaurants. Instead, these areas are overrun by fast food restaurants and convenience stores.
The celebrity meals at McDonald's, I feel like they're extremely targeted, being that they usually use African American music artists, rappers.
They really try to like, I guess, typecast it where it's like, well, Black people love fast food and they also like rap music. So let me use these Black, rappers and try to appeal to this target audience because I know at the end of the day, they gonna always get their cheap meal off of that fast food chain, which is McDonald's.
And it's very targeted because a lot of African American communities are food deserts and all they have around are these fast food, unhealthy options, and McDonald's is like super prevalent in most African American communities.
And that overall is impacting the health and nutrition of Black households as well. You only did that not only for me to engage into your product, but for you to gain a profit. That's not promoting DEI at all.
It's just very problematic and very poorly done, very targeted, very inauthentic to me.
Even if you just eating tacos with extra hot sauce and you were holding an extra cold Sprite, and for some reason you're waiting for me to tell you to drink it, I still wouldn't tell you to drink that thirst-quenching Sprite.
They use the celebrities Lil Yachty and LeBron James to target our communities just because they know like these are people that we listen to, these are people that we're fans of. So they use people that are part of our media, like our pop culture, to target us. Psychologically, there's always a difference when you see someone that you admire, like LeBron James. It almost gives that performative, like you're being targeted because that's a celebrity that someone like African Americans would identify with because of his sport.
It didn't really align with his practice as a basketball player. It's more so as if, did you really pay the guy off just to make the bang for your buck? So it really is very essential that who you're using is crucial and how you're using it.
I recognize that is a smart thing for brands to do because, a little boy's always gonna grow up and be like, hey, I wanna be just like LeBron James. And if LeBron James is doing this, then I wanna do it too.
I just think you have to be intentional with how you try to tap into it, because it could be a hit or miss. If it's a miss, sometimes it lands really bad.
If I know especially your history and how you conduct yourself, whether things that have come to public or not, that will always outweigh any representation I see on the screen. That to me is more superficial.
This is not Wilson's first verbal faux pas. He actually has a well-documented history of making problematic statements, including mocking the Japanese language.
So the brand Lululemon, apparently the founder knew that Japanese people specifically wouldn't be able to pronounce the name Lululemon because we don't have the L sound in our language. When I heard that, I was like, that's weird. Like, that's kind of offensive, at least to me. And when I go into their website or like their online shop, they have Asian people representing their brand. So I'm like, that's very not authentic.
I do acknowledge that some are trying, and I know when you try, you don't always get it right. So I allow some grace in that, you really messed up, right?
Retailer H&M issues an apology after one of its ads sparks outrage, some calling the image racist. Amy Yancey explains why H&M is part of a growing list of companies facing a backlash.
It's the H&M hoodie seen around the world. A Black child in a green hoodie. The words printed on the sweatshirt:
coolest monkey in the jungle. And while it may seem innocent or harmless to someone who doesn't know the history or the context behind the term monkey, it's just super derogatory towards African American people because that's something that was screamed at us. We were mocked and ridiculed with that word. We were dehumanized with that word. So to put that on an African American child in your campaign is just wildly inappropriate and so tone deaf.
I think that's a space where you question a little bit like what is happening on the back end where we got all the way up to this point where the product is out there and that response in a larger scale is not good.
I remember it blew up. And I remember people protesting and literally like trashing stores in response to when this campaign went out. So whoever did this campaign either was intentionally ignorant and thought this was okay to still do, or was just unfortunately ignorant and lack an awareness.
These companies know the repercussions of one mistake and how it can have, and it's very hard to imagine that as you're intentionally choosing every bit of your commercial, there wasn't one person that was sitting in the room telling you, hey, this might not go well with the public. Let's entertain the idea that maybe that wasn't their intention, at least owning up to it, and maybe owning up to the public. While that was not our intention, I can see the ways that you're saying, you know, why it came off that way, and we apologize for it. And I mean, technically, sometimes that's what happens, but I feel like it's a blanket approach of like, we didn't mean to upset people, we understand we did, rather than acknowledging these are the ways that we understand we accept, we hurt the public and we own up to it, I think is a much more sincere apology.
But at the same time, I can still make a choice to kind of distance or, again, not contribute or support in certain ways until I see you've kind of gotten it right, until you've done some more work, some more diligent, research and true, true will to understand, to be able to support. Because it's not just about gain, it's really to help that group that you consider to be consumers.
So you can tell when something is authentic or not. You have some businesses who are like, oh yeah, we promote, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you have some businesses, oh yeah, we need to make a profit.
We're talking about brands that make millions, if not billions of dollars every year. And if you're not going to spend some of that money and give back to the people that are building your business, then I don't really believe what you're saying to me. I need to see that you're doing something in the corporate social responsibility area that supports the claims that you're making. You can't just make a heartwarming commercial but not back it up with the corporate side, with the corporate programming. You'll be spending money anyway. You're gonna promote your business, but what are you doing that you don't have to do?
Even though it's not like it's going to ensure like a company's profits, you gotta make sure you're fulfilling a need for everybody. Because at the end of the day, what type of company would it be if they didn't value their customers?